in this podcast, I'd like to go over a few things that you talked about last week. And first of all, that is what Christy talked about in terms of what minerals are used for. I haven't seen what she presented, but I'm assuming she talked to you about all the different uses of minerals, everything from pencils to metallic products to clays and graphite and all of those different kinds of things that we use minerals for. So as you saw, minerals are used for a multitude of purposes, and just keep in mind that all of that comes to us as a natural resource. Then what I'd like to do now is to go over all of the answers of the minerals that you identified over the last couple of weeks. The examples that you see up here on the screen are not the examples, the answers, but I'm going to give them to you orally. So get your notebooks out and then correct your own as we go along. And you may have noticed that I skipped some of those numbers because you didn't have those minerals on your keys, so some of those have been skipped. I'm going to start with number 1. That's graphite. Number 2 is galena. I skipped number 3. I probably should have skipped number 4, but that's okay. It's chalcopyrite. Chalcopyrite. Okay, number 5 is pyrite. Number 6 is magnetite. Moving on with number 7. I skipped that one, I think. Number 8 is hematite. Number 9 is limonite. 10 is bauxite. And 11 is halite, which is rock salt. And number 12 is fluorite. Cruising on, numbers 13 through 18. 13 is calcite. 14 is dolomite. 15 is sort of that bluish one. It's called azurite. Skip number 16. 17 is selenite. Another term that you can write down besides selenite is gypsum. G-Y-P-S-U-M. So write the word gypsum down beside selenite. And number 18 is quartz. Number 19 is also quartz, but it's the quartz crystal. Number 20 is what we call potash feldspar. Another term for that is orthoclase. R-O-T-H-C-L-A-S-E. Orthoclase. Number 21 is plagioclase, which is related to orthoclase. They're both what we call feldspars. I think you may have done 22, which was kaolinite. We skipped 23. 24 was talc. That's the one that's soapy feeling. And then we get into the final group. 25 is muscovite. That's that light colored mica. Number 16 is, 26 is biotite. That's the dark colored mica. 27 is hornblende. 28 is augite. 29 is olivine. And I think we skipped the number 30 for now. We'll come back to that one. So make sure you've corrected those. If you would, please give me a total that you got correct. I don't know exactly how many minerals we had after the second day, so we'll figure that out. But just tell me how many you got right. So just count them up, how many you got correct, and I'll get those scores from you in the next class period. So what I'd like you to do now is to go back to your list of minerals and put a star beside these, or circle them, or put these on a separate page so that you have them available to you next week as we begin to move into next week's activity. So these are the minerals that you're going to need to know for next week. First of all, you need to know quartz. You need to know there's two kinds of feldspar. There's a light colored feldspar called plagioclase. There's a pinker one that's called orthoclase. Those are both feldspars. And then know both of the micas right here, both the muscovite on the right and the biotite mica here on the left. Then, also want you to make sure that you know hornblende, augite, and olivine. So make sure that you have indicated in your notebook each of those minerals, become familiar with them, be able to identify them. We'll need them in the activity that we're going to do next week. So now we're going to transition from minerals to rocks. Remember when I started this whole thing a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you about how minerals are made up of elements. Those elements combine to form compounds, and those compounds often result in the formation of a mineral. So what we find out now is that the mineral pieces can be used to form rocks. They go through a process that we call the rock cycle. You don't need to write this down yet. We're going to go over this in detail later. But what we are interested in today is the fact that there are 3 different kinds of rocks that are formed through this rock cycle. We have sedimentary rocks, which are the ones over here on the left-hand side of this cycle. We have metamorphic rocks right here, but we're most interested today in this group over here, the igneous rocks. Now, before I flip the screen, some of you may already know what the word igneous means. You got it? Yes, it means having to do with fire. So these are minerals, these are rocks that are formed from minerals that have been completely melted down to a liquid state. So they were somehow, at some point, melted all the way down into lava or other molten material, either under the surface of the earth or on the surface of the earth, and then they cooled off, and when they cooled off, they had the opportunity to form into rocks. Those various minerals had a chance to do that. So in the rock cycle, we can see that they go through a process of melting, right here, and also then remelting, and this cycle continues back and forth depending upon the forces of nature at work in that particular rock or in that particular mineral. And again, as those minerals and materials cool, they form minerals, but it's not just a single mineral now. There's multiple minerals all mixed together to form a particular rock. So it might look like this, for example. Here we have the feldspar right here, which is orthoclase, the sort of pinkish colored feldspar. This is hornblende up here, and this is quartz. When those guys get melted down together, and they have a chance to then mix, because now it's all molten material, it's all liquid material, they have a chance to mix together, and then as it cools off, depending upon how much time it has to cool, it will form crystals, and it will form a new rock, an igneous rock, this one right here, which is actually called granite. And some of you have even mentioned in your misconception probe last week that you know what granite is. So we have minerals, get melted down, they cool off, and they begin to form igneous rocks. In this particular case, they're forming granite. So what we're going to be about in the activity on Thursday is taking a look at about 5 or 6 different igneous rocks, and now you've identified the minerals that make up those igneous rocks, and we're going to see if we can create a model or design some sort of an explanation as to how the minerals come together to form the igneous rocks. Should be a fun activity, and I'll see you in class on Thursday. Thanks.